Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Follow the Money with Ugodre. This Monday, 13th of January, 2025. Ugo's gone out to do some other things, so I would be your host today. Wade is my name, and I will be hosting the show. On the first part of the show, we'll be looking at, as usual, what the market wrapped up with in the week that just ended on 10th of January. We'll look at the key highlights, what sectors performed the most, who were the top gainers and the top losers. And then we would also look at the first Treasury bill for the year and what that means to how 2025 is going to look like from the auction that happened on January 8, 2025. And on the second part, we'll give you that once we get through this first part. So on the market wrap for today, the week ending January 10th on a high note with the all share index posting an impressive 1,864.73 points gain to settle at 105,451.06. You've seen that this year, towards the end of last year and at the close of last year, the all-share index crossed the 100,000 mark. It did the same thing in 2023, but at the beginning of the year, it didn't sustain that. But this year, we've seen it sustain it and is growing week on, week out. It represents a 1.8% increase or uptick from the previous week's close of 103,586.33, shattering the 104,500 resistance level that had held firm since March 2024. It's also the sixth consecutive week of gains of the all-share index. Total market value surged to 3.6 billion shares, reflecting a robust 37.8 increase from the preceding 2.6 billion shares that were traded in the market, and capitalization surpassed the significant milestone of 64 trillion, closing at 64.3 trillion, driven by the gains in the premium sub-index and broad-based price increases across key equities. So for those who have been looking at the markets and believing that what does 2025 hold, you can see that the capital market is still as robust as it can be. Remember, it closed the end of the year on a high note, and it's continually moving up in the north direction, meaning that the bulls are still in charge, and the bears have not taken any part of the first 10 days of the market. Let's see how the market will go this week. But some key highlights from the previous week was the surge of the NGX Premium Index by an impressive 4.2%, which was driven by significant increase in key stocks such as MTN, which increased by about 21%. And FBN, which increased by about 8%. We'll be talking more about that on the second part of the show, where we'll look at the companies over the first 10 days of 2025 that have continually impressed and continued in the north directions, continually putting up the bulls and ensuring that their prices are going up on a regular basis. The NGX 30 index posted a gain of 2.1% in comparison to the premium index, while the NGX main board index advanced by 0.57%, which reflects a broad-based investor confidence in the capital market. So as we can see, the market there's still so much confidence in the market. People are still trading, and the market is continually growing on a week-by-week basis. And when we look at the sector performances, the banking index led the market performance, rising 1.94 on the back of the gains in Wema Bank and Eco Bank, or Ecotrans International, the group that owns EcoBank. The insurance index faded with a sharp decline of 6.191%. I remember last week Ugodre talking so much about the insurance sector and some of the gains and some of the things that have happened over the last year and this year as the markets opened for the first 2 days in 2025, weighed down by losses of over 10% in 4 insurance stocks. Other sectorial indices experienced modest declines, with the consumer good index oil and gas index and industrial goods index all retreating by 0.34, 0.34, and 0.26 respectively. You can see that this is really the beginning of of the year, and some of those sectors are just about to start to put in place all the things, the strategies that they put out, they've worked on at the end of 2024 towards having a successful 2025. The top gainers for the week was led by Multiverse Mining and Exploration, up 53.42%. Honeywell Flour Mills, we'll talk about that on the second part of the show, as one of the consumer index companies that is rising after what the consumer index went through in 2023-2024. Dow Communications up 25.71% to 88 kobo per share. MTN Nigerian Communications PLC up 21% to 242 naira. NCR Nigeria PLC up 20.66% to 7 naira 30 kobo. Transnation Express PLC up 20.48% to 2 naira. Transnational Corporation PLC up 18.39% to 51 naira 50 kobo. Learn Africa PLC up 16.97 to excuse me, 5 naira 79 kobo. Linkage Assurance PLC up 16.31% to 1 naira 64 kobo. University Press PLC up 15.58% to 4 naira 45 kobo. On the loser's side, you remember I said earlier that a number of the insurance companies had major fallouts. I mean, drops in their performance over the week, and it led to the insurance sector dropping 6.91%. Leading that was Suno Assurance Nigeria PLC. It was down 36.52%. Caverton Offshore Support JRP PLC down 15%. Consolidated Hallmark Insurance, that's another insurance company, that went down 15%. Alti Briscoe went down 14.33% to 2 naira 57 kobo. Jais Bank PLC down 10.77 to 2 naira 90 kobo. Another insurance company, Prestige Assurance PLC down 10.27% to 1 naira 31 kobo. Cornerstone Insurance down 10.11% to 3.91, 3 naira 91 kobo. Unicell Interlinked PLC down 9.96% to 17 naira 35 kobo. Royal Exchange PLC down 9.92% to 1 naira 9 kobo. And Skyway Aviation Handling Company PLC down 9.87 to 30.15%. So you can see that the insurance companies, about 5 of them were among the top 10 losers for the year. Some corporate announcements during the week. GT Co PLC successfully completed the first phase of its capital raising program, raising 209 billion. UAC of Nigeria PLC announced some board changes, including the retirement of Mr. Bolaji Odunsi. FBN Holdings outlined steps to protect its shareholders' interests following reports on an EGM demand. And Airtel PLC disclosed a transaction involving its own shares, which is expected and mandated by the exchange. Let's go into Treasury bills, and the first Treasury bills of the year was issued on behalf of the Debt Management Office with 282.42 over subscription, worth about 1.47 trillion for the 364-day Treasury bills at the auction that held on January 8th. We can see that over the last 3 or 4 issues, the Treasury bills have been oversubscribed. And what are the reasons for this, and some of the things that Nigerians now believe that they can invest more in the Treasury bills? Because I remember earlier, sometime 2 years ago in 2023, after this administration came in, even before then, the rate of investment in Treasury bills had dropped significantly. But over the last 3-4 auctions, you've seen oversubscriptions at different levels. The plan was announced that it was going to be issued on January 8 for the 91 days, 182 days, and 364 days, which auction happened on January 8. Offered was 50 billion for the 91 days tenure, 80 billion for the 182 day tenure, and 385 billion for the 364 day tenure. Subscription results revealed 22.94 billion for the 91 days, 20.81 billion for the 182 days, which was far less than how much was put in offer, and a staggering 1.47 trillion for the 364 days. The bids range from 17 to 28% for the 91 days, with a stop rate of 18%, 18 to 20% for 182 days with a stop rate of 18.5%, and 22 to 28% for the 368 days with a stop out rate of 22.6%. So this surge in the bills comes amid rising interest. Central Bank raised 149.94 billion through Treasury bills. That's the 91 days, which accounted for 2.78 billion. 182 day bills for 94.33 billion, and 364 day bill for 52.29 billion. When you compare, the subscription level shows a significant surge in the 364 days, with interest rising by 2,723% to 1.44 trillion. Interest in 91 day bills also increased by 725% to 22 billion. However, interest in the 182 days declined sharply by 7.9% to 20.8 billion. Heightened interest in longer term security is happening against the backdrop of rising interest rates in the system. Central Bank raised its monetary policy, remember, by 25 basis points from 27.5 to 27.5, all in its efforts to combat inflation, which stood at 33.88% in the month. We should be expecting the December inflation numbers to come out this week, and let's see how that goes. Will it go up? Will it come down? That is the question until we see the data. On the second part of the show, like I said, we'll be looking at the shares that have been rising, banking, telecoms, and even the consumer goods sector. And then we'll also be looking at some of the things that have been happening in the agricultural sector. Remember, I think last week there was in the news that Olam was about to sell some stake to a Saudi entity. This has now been confirmed, and we'll bring you more details about that on the second part of the show. This is Follow the Money with Ugo Dre, and I am your host, Wade. Welcome back to Follow the Money with Ugo Dre. I am your host, Wade, and I am the one who is handling the show today. Remember, you can listen to Follow the Money every Monday on Classic 97.3 FM at 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. And you can also listen to us on all podcast channels and the Nairametrics YouTube channel. On the second part of the show, remember I said that some of the major shares have been staging an increase in the first complete trading week of the year. One of those shares is First Bank Nigeria. We know last week there were so many things in the news about First Bank in relation to General Hydrocarbons Limited, following some disputes which stemmed from a loan transaction made during Obatudeko's tenure at FBN Holdings. There was a leaked letter to the CBN Governor Yemi Cardoso which revealed that the deal was meant to use profit from oil mining license 120, which is a license that the General Hydrocarbons Limited has some interest in, to reduce First Bank's non-performing loan to avoid hefty provisions in 2021. But GHL claims the bank has failed to deliver on its commitment. This matter is now in court. There has been court orders that have been issued for both parties. Tension increased last week when First Bank froze $225.8 million of GHL's funds across the bank. A move that DHL says violates an earlier court order which was taken. And despite the ongoing legal battles, First Bank holding shares still recorded a 7.8% gain, closing at 30 naira 20 kobo in the second week of January. Let's see how that translates in this week's trading activities. I know that in a number of things have gone on over the last week trying to find some amicable solution to the issue or the dispute between General Hydrocarbons Limited and First Bank Holdings. Let's remember this is a corporate issue and it has nothing to do with personal interest. It's just a business interest that has to deal with a loan transaction that General Hydrocarbons Limited was advanced by First Bank. And like I said, there have been court rulings, and let's see what happens this week and how the market would take the information and the things that happened last week into play in how they deal with the First Bank shares this week. Also, MTN share price is on the rise. It has soared 20% month to date in early January, with market activities exceeding 30 million shares, which have been traded. This rise in relation to 2024 seems to be correcting that low stock pricing in 2024, where the stock dipped 170 naira in November, with the fact that most of the telcos are continually dealing with exchange rate challenges, and that is some significant struggles that MTN has had over the last 18 months. According to the earnings report released in late October for the 9-month period ending September 30, net foreign exchange losses spiked by 90.8% year on year, reaching 904 billion compared to 474 billion in 2023. We don't know what that amount will be at the end of 2024, but as at September 2020, we had seen that potential exchange loss of 90.8%, reaching 904 billion. MTN will continue to they are continually trying to navigate the macroeconomic challenges by diversifying its financing option, and this was bolstered by short-term working capital, which they have continued to issue commercial papers for in comparison to having to take out long-term or bank loans towards managing, ensuring that they have the cash flow and the working capital to continually run their business. From early November to late December, the company had rolled out like 5 to 6 series of commercial papers, series 11, 12, 13, and 14, and 15 and 16, each targeting 50 billion, with all issuance experiencing oversubscription. So when MTN put out those commercial papers, they were all fully oversubscribed. These strategic initiatives have likely contributed to MTN's share price rising by over 20% month to date as of January 10, 2025, climbing back to 242 naira. Sorry. The other likely driver is a market correction. The stock has rebounded. This is probably another correcting driver. Following a market correction, the stock rebounded by more than 40% over December and January, surpassing 230 in early January as the highest 281 naira resistance zone, which it reached in early 2024, in spite of the losses that he had made in spite of the potential foreign exchange losses at the end of 2023. Another price that is going up is Honeywell in the consumer goods sector. The price, Honeywell flour mills, had their price climb 32% more to date, making the top advancing consumer goods stock on the Nigerian exchange so far in early January of 2025. This comes after Flour Mills Nigeria, which holds a 1.69 stake in the company, relaunched the Honeywell brand again. I mean, in mid-December, and I think this has brought about renewed interest in the shares of Honeywell Flour Mills. According to the managing director of Flour Mills Nigeria, the relaunch was aimed to redefine and strengthen the brand's presence in the market. Honeywell Flour PLC has recorded gains in 5 of its last 6 trading sessions in early January after the relaunch, reflecting sustained investor interest. The company has reported a 126% year-on-year increase in revenue, jumping from 79.9 billion to 179.5 billion for the 6 months ending September 30, 2024, which is a remarkable increase. And with that, and the relaunch of the brand in mid-December, investors' interest is growing again, and we can see that reflect in the share climb of 32% month to date. The growth was accompanied by 186% rise in pre-tax profit, reaching 3.4 billion compared to a loss of 3.9 billion in the previous year. That's a huge turnaround. He had to make double the amount of money and wipe out the loss from the previous year and have 3.4 billion in profits. After the earnings report released on October 30, 2024, Honeywell shares closed at 4.73 naira in November. And in mid-December, Flour Mills Nigeria, which holds the 71%, relaunched the Honeywell brand. And with that, shares in January has surged 32%, which makes it the number 1 consumer goods stock on the Nigerian exchange so far in 2025. Last week, there were some rumors in the news about a Saudi company buying out Olam Agri. These rumors have now been confirmed, as the Singapore-based agribusiness giant Olam Group has confirmed receiving an offer from the Saudi Agricultural and Livestock Investment Company SALIC to buy out the remaining stake in Olam Agri. SALIC is a state-owned entity which currently holds a 35.4% stake in Olam Agri, which it acquired in 2022 as part of a strategic supply and cooperation agreement between the two parties. Remember last week, Bloomberg had reported that there was a potential deal being negotiated, and this announcement now confirms that rumor that news that was put out and reported by Bloomberg. Statement released to the Singapore Exchange by Olam Group confirmed receiving a non-binding indicative offer from SALIC, which was shared with the exchange where Olam Agri is listed. The statement added that Olam is currently exploring the offer with the help of its appointed advisors, and it quotes, "While the company is reviewing and in discussion regarding a potential sale of its stake in the Olam Agri business, the company would like to stress that no definite terms or formal legal documentation have been agreed upon between the parties to date." The statement said, "There is no certainty that a sale of the company's stake in the Olam Agri business will proceed or materialize." Very important statement that was made there by Olam Agri. Olam Agri is one of the 2 key divisions of Olam Group alongside Olam Food Ingredients, which handles a diverse portfolio which includes managing the Queensland cotton business in Australia, and they operate 6 gins as well as multiple warehousing facilities across Queensland and New South Wales in Australia. It also manages a pulse packing and trading operations. So today we've looked at what the market held. All share index is continually growing and has increased again this week by over 1,800 points. And the all share index has crossed has settled at 105,451.06, a 1.8% increase from the previous week's close of 103,586.33. um, um, for the week. We also looked at the trading in the market, where the volume of shares increased by 3.6. Increased to 3.6 billion shares in comparison. Over a billion shares additional were traded in the first full week of trading in 2025, and market capitalization surpassed a significant milestone of 64 trillion, closing at 64.3 trillion. Like we said, driven by gains in the premium sub index and broad-based price increase. Also on it, we spoke about the oversubscription of the Treasury bills, the 364 days Treasury bills, by over 283.42%, following the first auction of Treasury bills for the year on January 8th. Shares that have shown significant movement in the capital market, still reinforcing that the capital market is the place for you to put out your investments. FBN shares increased 7.8%, 86%, despite the ongoing back and forth with general hydrocarbons. MTN shares have started to pick up again, soared over 20% month to date in January. Honeywell shares, a top advancing consumer goods stock, up 32% month to date. And finally, the news is out that the Saudi company Salik has put in an offer to take over 35.4% stake in Olam Agri. You've been listening to Follow the Money with Ugo Gray. I have been your host, Wade Ahime. Remember to tune in every Mondays, 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. on Classic 97.3 FM. Also, you can listen to us on all podcast mediums and the Nairametrics YouTube channel, where you would see the details of the Follow the Money events, not just this one, but the ones from previous editions and so on. Remember, we're Nairametrics, and our goal is creating wealth through information. It's been Wade Ahime on Follow the Money, and thank you for listening. Have a great day.